So in this video I'll cover 6 different methods I know of for how to clean up walls, where they join and where they intersect. You've probably noticed in Revit by default when walls come together, layers are trying to find each other. So structure to structure, insulation to insulation, substrate and finish to finish, and so on. You can change these configurations by using the wall joints tool. So under the Modify tab, click on Wall Joints, and with this tool it's pretty automatic. You'll notice that as I hover, it's finding the instances where walls are coming together. So if I click on the one that I want to change, brings me into the mode where in the options bar I have a previous and next button, and by clicking on this next button you'll notice that it's starting to toggle through different configurations for how these layers are joining with each other. And depending on how complicated the walls are, you can have many configurations to toggle through. Next to the configuration is either butt or miter to choose from, and clicking on miter you can see it gives you a miter condition, which is pretty handy for precast wall panels. At the end of the options bar is the display pull down, and by default it uses what option you have set for the view. But by turning it off, by saying don't clean join, you're actually turning off Revit's default of joining the layers together. And you can see the layers just run past each other. So I'll click on clean join again, and when I'm happy with the configuration I'll just click in white space to accept it, and now I'll hit escape a couple times to get out of the wall joins tool. If you're not exactly happy with what it ended up with, you can be a little bit more specific using the Cut Profile tool. If you go to the View tab, you can choose Cut Profile under Graphics. And with this tool, you'll notice as I hover, it's actually finding individual layers of the wall. So for example, let's say there's a column in here somewhere, and I want a pocket around that column. I can choose this CMU layer, and then it brings me into an edit mode where I can change this profile. Again, I want to keep it as a closed loop like pretty much any sketch mode in Revit, and I don't want to cross any lines, so I just want to change how the shape of this is. So using any of your line tools up above here, click to start along an outside edge and then draw the new shape. I'll hit escape once to stop drawing the line, and you'll notice the blue control arrow here. And what it's pointing to is the part of the wall you want to keep. So I'll change it to keep this main part so that it cuts out this shape here. Hit OK, and you'll see that it's pocketed out that layer. And I could do the same over here by going back to Cut Profile, choose this layer, and in this case I can actually draw to extend the layer out, and click to finish. These first two methods have been just view specific methods. The next one I'll go through is called disallow wall joins, and that actually changes how the walls are modeled and where the ends of the walls stop. For example, let's go to this corner. Say I want the walls to actually butt into each other. So I can change that by actually telling Revit not to join the walls in this condition. Every wall you select, you'll see a blue pull handle that you use to stretch the wall back and forth with. If I hover over that pull grip and right click on it, you can actually click to disallow the join altogether. Once you do that, you can grab these walls freely and let them butt into each other. Again, this actually changes how these walls are modeled and where these walls actually stop. Another tool to use is, say for example, at where windows and doors cut through walls, I want the brick to wrap back and return at these conditions. You can do this by actually changing a parameter in the wall itself. So select the wall, and then under its properties choose Edit Type. And here you have the option to allow it to wrap at inserts. So I use the pull down menu, and you can either choose exterior or interior. These are the exterior layers or interior layer. Exterior in this case would be the brick layer, and interior would be the CMU for this wall. So I'll choose the exterior layer for the brick and hit OK. And you can see what it's done is every instance where a window is cutting through this wall, it's wrapping the brick back. If I chose interior, it would wrap the CMU back to the brick. Keep in mind that this is a type parameter, so if you change that parameter for this wall, it's changing all of the walls of that type. You also probably noticed going back into those properties that there was a wrap at ends one as well. If you choose this one, and I'll choose exterior again for the brick and hit OK. What it's going to do is anytime the wall stops, that brick layer will return as well. That's pretty handy for stem walls. You'll notice it didn't happen here because these walls are actually joined together. So if I wanted for whatever reason for this brick to return at this end, I would want to disallow the join. And doing that, I'll drag it back here. By disallowing the join, it lets the brick return, and then I can butt it up against the wall. So the next method I know of is actually more handy in sections. So if I go to a section view of this project, double click to enter in. Say for example at a parapet condition here, actually I want the brick to extend past the roof, but I wanted my stud back up to slide back down and stop at the roof. You can achieve this also by going into the wall itself's properties. So to do that, I'll select the wall and hit edit type. And then I need to actually edit the structure of the wall itself. So click on edit structure. And you probably don't see that window. By default, you don't see a preview. But what you'll need to do is you need to click preview. And it may bring you a preview of a plan view of the wall. So click preview and then click the pull down menu of what you're seeing and actually go to a section view of the wall. Now that you're in a section preview of the wall, these modify buttons will not be grayed out anymore. So to modify the layers of this wall, to let them slide past each other, click modify, and then I want to zoom in. And when I do that, I can select the individual layers of the wall. And what you'll notice is there's a little padlock. The padlock is telling me that it's locked to the rest of the height of the wall. But if you just select the layer of the wall at its top end and then click on the padlock, that unlocks it from the rest of the height of the wall. So I'll do that for my gyp layer and then also for my stud layer. The only caveat to this tool is the layers you choose to unlock from the rest of the wall have to be touching each other. What I mean is I can't unlock this layer and then this layer over here because they're not adjacent to each other. So they have to be all adjacent. So now that I've unlocked the stud and gyp layer, I'll just hit OK, and then I'll hit OK again to make the changes come into effect. Now when I select the wall, you'll notice there's not just one drag handle for the wall height, but there's two. That's a separate handle for me to slide the stud and gyp down and away from the wall height. You can do this is also handy for at the base of the wall in a lot of cases where the brick may return down from the slab. You can do the same thing here. So I'll choose the wall, edit its type, edit the structure, and keeping the preview open and make sure it's set to section, click modify, come down here and I'll just unlock in this case I'll just unlock the brick and the airspace from the rest of the wall. Doing that, I'll hit OK and OK again, and now I'm able to slide these layers past. Keep in mind that I've edited this wall's type, so anytime you edit a type, it's editing all the other walls of the same type. So now they're all unlocked from each other and able to slide. This is actually changing the model. If I were to go to a 3D view, you can see that the actual model itself has been modified. To move this roof over, you'll need to select it and then hit Edit Footprint and go to Plan View and slide that over. I can do that real quick. So I'll just go to a Floor Plan View, slide this over, and accept. Now going back to my section, you can see that's the proper way for sliding the roof over. Finally, the last method I know of is another modeling method. It's a way of changing the wall itself, and that is I'll close out of this section here. This method is good for creating wall openings or the shape of the wall itself. So for example, if I want to create an entryway, an opening through this wall without having a door in it, then a good method to do that is to actually edit the wall's profile. So I'll go to an elevation view of this wall, and then I want to select the wall, and when I select the wall, in the toolbar at the top, I have the option to edit its profile. So if I click Edit Profile, it brings me into this edit mode where, using the line tools, I can draw in my entranceway. So click to start, I'll draw it up, and back down. I'll line it real quick. And then you need to actually change this profile. You can't just leave that line there. So I want to split this line and then trim it back. So use the Split Elements tool and split that line away, and then I'll hit Escape. And then I will trim these corners. So I'm actually changing the shape that this wall is modeled. Once I have the shape down, I'll hit the green check mark to accept it. And if I go back to a plan view, a first level plan view, you can see it's created the wall opening for me accurately. Using this method, it also gives you drag handles where you can kind of modify it on the fly. Another good use for changing the edit wall profile is you can change the outside profiles of the wall too. So for example, this curtain wall, first I'll trim up these curtain walls. Curtain walls by default want to kind of do this to you. If you want to butt them into each other, just disallow the joins. Right click on the handle and then drag them down from each other. So to use the edit wall profile tool in this curtain wall case, I'll go to this elevation, and let's say for example I want these panels to kind of tooth into each other to be a little bit more realistic. This is another good case for the edit wall profile. So I'll select this curtain wall, edit the profile, and then just notch these panels back from here. Again, you'll have to split these lines and trim them back. I have this extra line hanging out, so I need to delete that away, and just hit the green arrow to accept it. I'll go to a 3D view, and you can see how it's kind of more realistically carving these panels back.